I moved into the basement unit of a house just outside Portland back in 2021. I was fresh out of college, low on savings, and desperate for anything cheap and halfway quiet so I could focus on job hunting. The rent was dirt cheap, $500 a month, all utilities included, fully furnished, private entrance. It seemed like a steal. The landlord was this quiet, older guy named Alan, mid-60s, graying hair, live alone in the upstairs unit. Said he'd inherited the place from his parents and just rented out the basement to help cover taxes. He seemed normal enough, a little twitchy, the kind of guy who smiled without showing teeth, but polite. The basement unit wasn't glamorous. Low ceilings, a weird layout, some mildew in the bathroom tile, but it was livable, and I liked the idea of not having to deal with roommates. For the first few weeks, everything was fine, until the smell started. It wasn't strong at first, just a faint, sour odor that seemed to linger near the bedroom closet. I figured it was a plumbing issue or something dead in the wall. This was an old house, after all. I told Alan about it. He nodded slowly, like I just told him the weather. Probably the insulation, he said. That whole back wall's full of junk my dad put in when he tried to winterize the place. I'll take a look when I get a chance. He didn't. Instead, the smell got worse. It was like rot. Moldy meat mixed with mildew and something metallic. It clung to my clothes. I had to keep the windows open at night, just to sleep. And then, about a week later, I started hearing noises. It began as faint scratching. In the ceiling, mostly at night. Sometimes above the kitchen. Sometimes above the bedroom. I tried to convince myself it was mice, squirrels, maybe a raccoon. But mice don't whisper. The first time I heard it, I thought it was the TV. A soft, breathy voice, just at the edge of hearing. I muted everything and listened. The whisper came again. Low, wet, like someone trying to speak through a mouthful of water. I couldn't make out the words. I went upstairs to tell Alan. He opened the door in a bathrobe, holding a mug that smelled like whiskey. His eyes were bloodshot. I'm hearing noises, I said, scratching and whispering in the ceiling. He blinked, then said something I'll never forget. He's probably just curious. I stared at him. What? He shook his head. Mice. Probably just mice. I'll set traps. He never did. The next night, I didn't sleep. I sat in bed, flashlight in hand, staring at the vent in the ceiling above me. Around 2 a.m., I heard breathing slow, shallow, coming from the vent. Not airflow, not wind, breathing. I stood on my bed, aimed my flashlight up through the slats. Nothing. Hello. I whispered, and something whispered back. Don't tell him I'm here. I jumped off the bed so fast I hit my shoulder on the dresser. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. By the third night, I'd had enough. I called my brother, asked to crash at his place across town. He didn't ask questions. I packed a duffel bag and left by morning. But before I left, I checked the vent. I pulled a chair into the bedroom, stood up, and unscrewed the panel. Inside was a narrow crawl space. Dusty, dark, no insulation, just wooden beams and spider webs. And a handprint. My heart nearly stopped. I called the non-emergency police line, told them I suspected someone had been living in the ceiling or the crawl space. 2 officers came. They checked the vent, then asked to look in the attic. Alan wasn't home. They found the key under the mat and went in. The attic was clean. Empty, they shrugged. Said maybe I was tired, stressed. But as one of them left, he pulled me aside and said,
"If you're uncomfortable, you should leave. Cheap rent's never worth it."
So I did. I stayed with my brother for a week while I looked for a new place. When I returned to pack the rest of my stuff, I brought a friend with me. Strength in numbers. The smell was worse than ever. As we were boxing on my dishes, my friend noticed something odd. A panel in the wall behind the coat rack, slightly ajar. He opened it and found a small service tunnel, maybe 3 feet high, leading behind the kitchen and bathroom walls. Inside, there was a mattress, stained, moldy, surrounded by empty water bottles and food wrappers. A flashlight, a notebook. We flipped through the pages. They were full of drawings. Faces, hundreds of them, wide-eyed, screaming. And in the back, a sketch of me, sleeping, from above. We left immediately. I called the police again. This time, they took it seriously. A week later, I got a call. They'd arrested someone, Alan's brother. He'd been hiding in the walls for months, wanted in 2 other states for assault and home invasion. The police said Alan had been letting him stay there secretly, off the grid, claiming he was sick and not ready to be in public again. They charged Alan for harboring a fugitive. I read the article in the local paper. They found more drawings, more observation tunnels carved between the walls. One of them led directly above the bed in the basement unit. I still don't know how often he watched me, how close he was when I heard the breathing, how long he'd been whispering through the vents. Sometimes, I think about what would have happened if I hadn't left, if I'd stayed one more night, if I'd woken up to find him standing at the foot of my bed, smiling.